Welcome back, fellas. Hope you guys are having a nice early February. It's finally cleared up. The weather is really nice where I'm at right now. It's been pretty cold and dreary for like weeks. So it's really nice. It's like 50 degrees right now, which is very, very happy with it. In this video, I was going to talk about five subjects that have been relative, I've been thinking about. So one of them will be 𝚂𝚘𝚘 Junior, which is a bench press program, or strength training, and why we should be thinking about peaking in terms of strength around this time of the year. And then I'll be talking about Black History Month, AI tools, the egg shortage here in the U.S., and then Christian nationalism. So, yesterday was Candlemas, aka Groundhog's Day, aka the presentation of the Lord. I think the groundhog didn't see his shadow, or anyways, there's going to be like 6 more weeks of winter. Jonathan Pajot has a pretty good video on Groundhog's Day and Candlemas, which is the mass where all the candles are blessed for the year. There's Saint Blaise, the feast day of Saint Blaise too. They'll bless the throat. Apparently, Saint Blaise is the patron saint of like throat ailments because he saw he was getting arrested or something, and then he saw like a child choking on a fishbone, and then he went and kind of like blessed him, and then he was like miraculously saved. We've got a couple more weeks before Lent, and 2 or 3 more weeks, and in my mind, it makes sense to try to peak out, in terms of your training and orient your training, starting, after the Christmas octave, and then and Epiphany time, start thinking about running like a 4 to 8 week program where you're trying to max out whatever you're trying to max out in terms of strength for right before Lent. And my bench press had been plateauing for a long time. I just could not get stronger. It seemed like I was getting weaker almost. So I ran the 𝚂𝚘𝚘 Junior bench press program, which is a 3-week program over the past month. So it's 3 weeks, and then there's 1 week of peaking. I just hit a new PR on bench press. I benched 260, which I thought I was going to be able to hit only 250, but I felt really strong, and I benched 260, which is a new max. I'm really happy about that because it's been a long time coming where I've been really plateauing hard. So I heard about the 𝚂𝚘𝚘 Junior bench press program from the Golden One. He's got a YouTube channel, and he has a couple of videos about that. It's a really good program. I'll link it in the description box below if you're interested. But basically, I haven't been squatting or deadlifting for a while. I've been benching 4 times a week for 3 weeks. And, day 1, you're doing 6x6. Day 2, you're hitting 7x5. Day 3, you're hitting 8x4. And then day 4, you're hitting 10x3. So, and then you increase the weight like by 5 pounds. So it's a lot of bench pressing. I think I learned from that program that how to use my leg drive better, because you're doing so much volume in the bench press that you just get better at it. So I just think it's not so much to talk about my own strength levels, which are not that great in the grand scheme of things, but it's more, I think it makes sense to liturgically to try to max out in terms of strength before Lent, because Lent we should be fasting and you're probably not going to be as strong. So, around Easter time, you start training. You got like 6 or 7 months of ordinary time before Advent, and then during Advent you can do some fasting, but continue your training. And then got Christmas, and then you got another 2 months or so between the end of the Christmas octave and the beginning of Lent. So, you got probably between all those times, you got probably 8 to 10 months of hardcore training. So, yes, I think it makes sense to peak out your training and then go hard during January and February and try to break new records. Black History Month is February now, and there's Black History Month, and they should call it African American History Month, because it's more about like slavery and the oppression of blacks in America. But I was thinking it might be a good thing if African Americans became more in touch with African history, because and I've been thinking about this. If you've lost kind of your heritage, if America erases so many cultural backgrounds, people come to America and then within a generation or two, they've lost all of their traditions, all of their kind of connection to their roots. And so it's like if you are, the ancestor of slaves, and the slaves, a lot of their everything was wiped out. Can you reconnect with your roots? You can take the 23andMe, which I'm not sure if I trust that stuff because they're gonna have your DNA. But anyways, you can you reconnect by studying African history, even though the connection has been broken. It's not organic. Can you kind of synthetically study African culture and be kind of an Afrocentrist in the sense that you value your African heritage and you have like a connection, the history, without having an actual true connection. Like your father doesn't know. Like you're studying history and then you kind of reconnect with like your culture, even though your father never passed it on to you. So I think that could be a positive thing because it's better to have some culture than no culture. Even if your ancestors were pagans or were not Christians, it's still good to kind of know the history of where you came from. That way, you won't be so easily swayed by the culture. Because if you don't have a culture or a heritage that you're connected to, you're just going to be influenced by whatever kind of media propaganda comes out. So I guess I'm in favor of blacks studying history, but I'm not sure if I'm in favor. I think a lot of the African American history that is being pushed is it's like victim narratives, and that's not really empowering. People should listen to Thomas Sowell if they want to know a lot of the other contexts, because there's a lot of stuff that happened. It's good to understand the evils of what happened, but it's kind of like a narrow lens. You need to see the big picture, and I think it's a good thing if not only just African Americans, but if all of us, try to research our history and be in touch with that. I'm not really an ethnocentrist. Like, I don't think that the races should necessarily be in their own kind of nation states, but I do think it's a good thing to be in touch with your cultures and to try to preserve that. So, next, AI tools. So, this ChatGPT stuff has been blown up. DALL-E 2 is like the number one art AI tool that you can find. It's pretty amazing what this stuff can produce. I don't view it as necessarily a bad thing. I think it's going to wipe out the AI art stuff is going to wipe out a lot of artists because people are not going to need to pay artists anymore. They can just utilize these art AI generator tools. So unfortunately, the starving artists are going to be even more starving. So that's a negative. It's a lot of people are going to be every time you use a new form of technology, you kind of lose what you were using before. So people's ability to be artists and to think creatively will be kind of you won't be exercising those muscles anymore because you don't need to because you're relying upon tools. So it's kind of a bad thing in the sense that people are not actually growing in virtue and people are not like forming these skills because they don't need to. So I think that's a negative aspect to this new kind of technology. But I think there's people like Andrew Torba, who's the owner of Gab. He wants to utilize this technology in order to spread Christian values. I think that can be a positive thing. Have you guys heard about the monkeys? Have you guys seen that monkey who took a selfie? I'll post it here, like right here or something. But anyways, this monkey, he took some guy's phone and took a selfie, and it's like a famous picture. And then the guy uploaded it online. I'm not sure if he was making money off of it, but then PETA sued him, and the court basically ruled that you can't copyright things that are created by non-human entities. So you can't copyright the monkey selfie because it's like a human didn't produce that. So that precedent is now being used for AI, where you can't copyright this AI art because it wasn't produced by a human. I think a lot of programming jobs are going to go away because the new job is going to be becoming an AI prompt writer. So I don't know. Some jobs are going to be absolutely devastated because of this new technology, which is not good. I think it's probably a good idea to try and learn some sort of hard skill to some degree because of this stuff. Because um, a lot of these white collar jobs are going away, unfortunately. So it's a double edged sword, just like any piece of technology. But it's probably going to continue to get better and better, and it's probably going to affect things in ways that we can't even imagine. So it's pretty wild to see this stuff gain so much traction so quickly. So if you're American, you've probably noticed that there's been a mass egg shortage. Some states worse than others. A lot of the states just recently banned caged eggs, and this is a double-edged sword too, because on one hand, I think that you probably shouldn't be eating caged eggs. I'll get into that here in a second. But the whole origin of this egg shortage is because partially because of inflation. The cost of chicken feed and everything has gone up, partially because of the avian flu. Apparently, or that's at least the mainstream kind of narrative why eggs are so expensive now, where apparently this avian flu has swept through a huge amount of the chicken population, and some states have also banned caged eggs. Also, at the same time, you see kind of like this Beyond Eggs kind of brand popping into existence. You see the Beyond Meats, the Beyond Eggs stuff going on. I'm definitely against that stuff. That stuff is artificial. I don't trust it. There's no way that they're going to be able to produce stuff that is just as good or better. It's probably just full of estrogens, so it's probably going to destroy your testosterone by eating that stuff. So I'd recommend to stay away from that stuff. But as far as banning caged eggs, it's a double-edged sword, because if you get rid of factory farming, on one hand it does spike the price of eggs, but on the other hand, you probably shouldn't be eating those eggs in the first place, because it's just like these chickens are being fed this like the worst imaginable like slop, essentially, these caged eggs. So there's caged eggs, cage-free eggs, free-range eggs, and then pasture-raised eggs. I'd recommend that you only eat pasture-raised eggs. They got the Vital Farm like black. They're more expensive, but you can if you buy one of those cartons of eggs and then you look at the yolk, it's significantly darker than the caged eggs. It's more expensive, but it's probably far better for you, because you are what you eat, but you're also what your food eats. So if you're eating these kind of caged eggs, you're probably ingesting a bunch of stuff you probably shouldn't. The pasture raised eggs, they actually have the ability to have access to this like an actual pasture where they're eating like bugs, scratching up. They're able to walk around. It's more natural. So I'd recommend try to only get the pasture raised eggs, even though they're more expensive. The cage eggs, the cage free eggs. Oh, they're cage free. All that means is that they're in an enclosed kind of indoor area, but they're just not inside cages. So they can walk around. Free range, all that means is that it's the same as cage free, but they might have like a little bit of access to a tiny outdoor area. It means that they have some degree of outdoor access. Pasture raised means that they actually have like area to roam around. So yeah, it's been bad with this egg shortage. I think it's affected the common man pretty bad. It's been no good. And then Christian nationalism. So I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm still formulating my opinion about Christian nationalism. I'm beginning to become more suspect of it. And I watched a video by Tim Gordon, and he was talking about integralism. I'll link that video in the description below. And that really kind of changed my mind on things. So, for one thing, the Christian nationalist movement is mostly Protestant, so I don't know that as a Catholic, I don't really share those same values as the Protestants, but he makes the point for the fact that there's kind of like three forms of government, and there's a good form and a bad form of each of the different systems. Like there's a monarchy, which is good, and then tyranny on the other side, which is bad. And then there's republic, which is good. Oligarchy is the bad version of a republic. And then democracy is the good version, and then mob rule is the bad version of democracy. So essentially, this kind of like what system of government would be the best depends on the morals of your people. So if your people are moral, if the majority is Catholic, then a monarchy would be the best fit because you got the majority who have the same values, who are a moral populace. But if you have an immoral populace, then democracy is actually the best because it's better to have mob rule than to have a tyrant. It's better to have more decentralized system when people are bad in general than to have a more centralized system. So I think it's good, like, a lot of the sentiment that's coming out of the Christian nationalist movement, but it could be also a way to just grab power. And I don't know that these people are convincing enough that they would actually wield that power well. And plus, the average American is not super, doesn't have great values. So there has to be kind of a spiritual revival first before, we can have a monarchy. So, he wrote a book called Catholic Republic, which I intend to read. Apparently, it kind of covers that stuff. He was talking about how the South and the Confederacy, Jefferson Davis was the self-proclaimed president of the South during the Civil War, and apparently Pope Pius IX praised Jefferson Davis for being. So I don't know really a lot about the Confederacy, but it's possible that the Confederacy was a better, more closely aligned to Catholic dogma compared to the Union. So this is kind of an ongoing question in my mind, but I am a little bit suspect about the Christian nationalist movement. I think it's, a good thing to be putting Christ at the center, but I'm not sure if all the people, like if there is truly a unified vision, if all the people who are in favor of this have the same kind of value system. I'm in favor of the Catholic value system, not the Protestant value system. So whatever kind of things come out of these movements, I'm beginning to become a little bit more suspect of those. So that's all I got for this video, but I'm getting very close to 100 subscribers now. So it would really help me out if you leave a like, leave a comment if you agree, disagree. I have a lot of hot takes, and I'm always open for discussion. So leave a comment if you have a differing opinion, and I'm hoping we have a good next couple weeks before Lent starts. Leave a comment too if you'd like me to talk about any particular subject. All right, see you guys.